Welcome to SoCal Voices, Impact of I.C.E., a student-led investigative podcast where we examine the history and impact of immigration and customs enforcement in Southern California.
Hello, my name is Omid Khanian. I am a journalism student at California State University, Northridge. In this episode, I will examine how students in the San Fernando Valley are coping with immigration raids and enforcement and what it means for their communities and future. Immigration enforcement is once again at the center of a national conflict. Across the United States, protests have erupted in the past few months over immigration raids and calls for sweeping federal policy changes. The Guardian reported that a movement dubbed ICE Out has sprung up in numerous states, as students, activists, and other citizen-organized strikes, walkouts, and protests. Students, activists, and citizens across the country are walking out of schools and work to protest immigration and custom enforcement. Some of these protests have been concentrated in cities like Pittsburgh, where despite below freezing temperatures, WESA reported hundreds of demonstrators gathered to protest immigration enforcement. The story behind this expanded movement are real and alarming. A 5-year-old boy was taken into immigration custody with his father 2 months ago in Minnesota, according to The Guardian. Students at the boy's school were frightened after learning of his arrest, and some were afraid to attend classes. Immigration agents say they did not target the child. However, his arrest underscores the consequences enforcement can have on families. Incidents like this are part of the reason we are seeing protests springing up across the country. These situations naturally lead to queries about the methods and focus of immigration actions. Let's look back at how immigration enforcement got started. The system we see today did not develop overnight. It was shaped by national security concerns and major policy changes following the early 2000s. In 2002, Congress passed the Homeland Security Act, which established the Department of Homeland Security. This act placed immigration enforcement under the umbrella of national security. This legislation created enforcement agencies like Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, to locate, detain, and deport individuals. Proponents of these policies feel they are needed to uphold immigration law and ensure national security. Immigration enforcement happen at massive scale these days. According to information provided by the Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse, a nonprofit research organization that collects data from federal immigration agencies. Tens of thousands of immigrants are being detained in immigration detention facilities throughout the country right now. Separately, Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Department of Homeland Security provide data showing enforcement actions continue to take place across the country, totaling thousands of arrests and removal each year. Taken together, these figures explain why immigration enforcement impacts so many people across the country. They are more than just numbers. They are people, family trying to make their way through our immigration system, often with uncertainty about what the future may bring. The sheer volume of enforcement means the impact is not felt individually, but collectively by entire communities. Numbers only tell part of the story. Research has revealed the effect of immigration enforcement on communities. According to research published in American Behavioral Scientist, immigration enforcement policies negatively affect immigrant families, causing fear, anxiety, and instability. This extends to families with mixed status. The study further revealed that effect can be felt within schools and throughout communities impacting students. Researchers also note that this constant uncertainty can shape how individuals interact with institutions like schools, workplaces, and even healthcare systems. For many, fear of enforcement can lead to isolation and hesitation in seeking help or support. Counter-movements against these effects have begun in communities across the nation as well. Organizers have staged demonstrations like the ones WESA and The Guardian describe above, protesting immigration enforcement efforts. Students in several states have also pushed their schools to change policies that are harmful to immigrant communities. California passed legislation aimed at restricting cooperation between schools and federal immigration enforcement. Assembly Bill 699, which goes into effect on January 1st, 2018, prevents schools from allowing the Department of Homeland Security or any other federal agencies to access pupils' schools' records without lawful authorization. These protests and policies response show that immigration enforcement is not just a federal issue, but one that communities are actively engaging with and responding to in real time. I spoke with CSUN student Ingrid Esparza-Bojorquez about how immigration enforcement is affecting students and communities in the San Fernando Valley. Okay, so my first question is, do immigration raids affect students emotionally or mentally, even if they are not directly involved? How?
I believe that they are emotionally, I believe that they may fear for not just their well being, but also for the well being of their family members, their loved ones. And you're not just gonna, you can't just like push those people aside because they're people that you love and you care for. So even though that it may not be happening just yet, it's something that stays in the back of your mind, and it is emotionally exhausting to be thinking about those things every time that you step out of the house.
Ingrid notes that when immigration raids take place, even students that are not directly affected by them still lives in fear. Many of them have concerns for their family members and loved ones. This results in the fear that can pervade their lives in other ways. My second question is, have you noticed fear, anxiety, or discussion about immigration enforcement among students on campus or in your community?
I normally see a lot of discussions in between people just in regards to social settings. Oh, you know how things are right now. That's them referring to the raids happening. So that's what they mean. It's almost as if they're trying to make it and normalize it so that they're able to continue on with their lives. And you know what? Sometimes we do have to continue on with our lives, but I see them also physically like stressing, just even talking to them. It's like the little fidgeting, the little thought in the back of their head of, you know what, maybe we're not going to be able to have that get together because that's in the valley or that's in a place where ICE is right now.
Ingrid says the discussion has become a normal part of student lives. Even as students have tried to pick up the pace of their day-to-day lives, the worries and the unknown of immigration enforcement have remained in the background. My third question is, how do immigration policies shape the everyday lives of immigrants, families, or mixed status communities?
In regards to policies, I think that we're all, and I mean when I say we, it's because I have a family meant out of people undocumented, documented, and just kind of a little bit in the middle that are getting to that way of getting their documents. So a lot of mixing. And the policies, we're just waiting for there to be either a change and just being hopeful. So seeing that from everyday life, it's just pushing through, and it does create a barrier sometimes where you feel hopeless because it's not happening. Something's introduced and then it's not passed, or a bill isn't passed, something you're really looking forward to.
Ingrid illustrates how immigration policies impact the daily lives of families, particularly those with mixed immigration status. The uncertainty of policies change can pose significant barriers, leaving many feeling struck and uncertain about the future. My final question, in your opinion, what should change to make students and communities feel safer?
I think that the law enforcement needs to be involved in a way that they're showing that they're on the community side, that they're there to enforce law, not just be witnesses to what's happening and not get involved. So that's one thing that I would say that needs to change. There are people with authority and people that are called when emergencies happen. And I think a lot of people are feeling kind of left in the dark or abandoned even by our own community members that are supposed to protect us. That says to serve and protect. And what do you do when they're protecting ICE?
Ingrid's perspective reflects how immigration enforcement is experienced on a personal level. Her responses highlight the connection between national policies and local impact, showing how decisions made at the federal level can shape everyday lives in communities like the San Fernando Valley. Her experience reflects a border reality for many students in the San Fernando Valley, where national policies are not distant political issues, but everyday concerns that shape how people live, learn, and interact with their communities. The future of immigration enforcement is hard to predict. The legislation Congresswoman Julie Johnson, Texas 32, is planning to submit would place restrictions on legal protections afforded to federal law enforcement. The move will effectively make it easier for federal law enforcement to be held accountable for their enforcement actions. On the other hand, California has its own bill in the books, which created in response to the feds. Going back over the Assembly Bill 699, the bill that protects California residents from the action of federal immigration authorities, remains in effect in California. Both pieces of legislation indicates that immigration enforcement is likely to continue to change with policy shift and voter response. As debate continues, at both the federal and state levels, the future of immigration enforcement will likely remain a central issue in American politics, with ongoing discussion about accountability, public safety, and the rights of immigrant communities. Immigration enforcement is often debated as a national issue, but for students in the San Fernando Valley, it is much more personal. It impacts how they see their communities, their futures, and their place in society. For many, immigration policies are not abstract debates, but lived experience that influence their everyday lives, from classrooms to homes to community spaces. As discussion on immigration enforcement continues, the perspective of students and those directly impacted will be crucial in understanding its true impact. And as this conversation continues, their voices will remain an important part of the story.
Thank you for joining us today. This podcast was produced by students in the journalism department at California State University, Northridge. Visit our YouTube channel at SoCal Voices, Impact Device for more episodes.